Shucking a bunya is very simple. Once they start pulling open like this easily, you just pull off each leaf like that, squeeze the nut out, and move on to this next step. All right, it is bunya season in full effect. I've had a couple of these bunya, but they got quite mushy and black, but that's okay. You can see the discoloration in some of these. We're just going to rinse them off fairly decently, just scrub off the clinging plant material to the outside of it. The wooden husks around, or the shell on the nut, is very hardy and thick, and will preserve the nut inside to a certain amount. Sometimes you find little moldy pieces and you throw those out. All right, what I'm doing here is a float test. Kind of necessary, kind of not. It's a faster way of getting the throwaways. Not all of the ones that float you need to throw away. I just do the ones that look really flat and also float. If they're about the same size and shape as the rest of the bunya and they're floating, I'll go ahead and cut them open and see if there's a nut inside. But yeah, this is just a way to clean it off. Just throw it in a bucket. You can kind of run your hand through them and they'll kind of rub against each other and help clean each other off. And then I'll take it into where I'm going to cut it. All right, so we've got 5 bunya here. 3 of them were halfway floaty and 2 were not. So this is just to show you, I think some of the floaty ones are still okay. And as you can see here, this one is quite gross looking, but these outside husks are very, very tough and thick. So I'll open this one first and show you. It doesn't mean it's bad. Even if the bunya nut, the whole thing is rotten, when you pick it up and it just falls apart. So what I'm doing here, very carefully, you'll notice here I have a Band-Aid. I've already cut myself once from not being as careful as I should have been, trying to pry up, and I slid my finger against the knife. But this is how I do it safely. It does require a bit of a strong grip because you want to make sure that the blade stays oriented like this. You want to have a lot of control going down. You can see there's a split here on the top. Let's see, where's the camera? You can see the split kind of runs down the side here. And if you look, if I have the blade perfectly lined up, it's not really aiming at the center of the nut, and what you want is it to be more in the middle. So I can kind of twist it so that it bisects the nut, perfectly going straight down, as good as you can get. And so what I'll do is I'll kind of set it into that space, making sure that my fingers are not below the blade. This knife blade comes all the way back, and under here I'm going to use top-down pressure to get it started. Just a quick little tap and you can see it's getting started, and it's nice in the middle. That's what you want. And then you just pop it open like that. Now once it is open, I like to batch process these, so I'll just go through and I'll cut as many as I can and just leave them like that. Once I've got a big bundle, I'll go through and just pop this out. You can see it, sometimes it breaks off and it leaves a little piece in there. I just go straight to pulling off. I pull off anything that's kind of brown on the outside. You can see here it looks a little bit dirty. That's from the inside there. That could be some kind of mold or something growing on it. But honestly, I've been doing this for a while, and it's up to you if you want to keep that one or not. I just wipe it off and put it in a dehydrator. I don't worry about a little bit of stuff like that. And then you just pop out the seed, or pop out the little shoot. So that's the throwaway pile, and then that's the good pile. And you just, you can pull it out by hand. If pieces want to stick to it, then I just go in and pop it out with a butter knife. See, there's more of that there. You can actually rinse these off, but quite honestly, I've just been wiping it off and putting it in the dehydrator. When you put it in there, it's going to be at 70 degrees for 12 hours. I think that's hot enough and dry enough. It's just going to kill anything that's growing on it. And then it's going to go right into the blender and right into the fridge, because that's one of the concerns. I'm like, well, if there's a little black stuff on it, it could leave some mold in the future or something like that. I don't know. I just keep mine in the fridge. You can see I'm like kind of tapping it there, making sure not to slip and put the knife onto my hand, but I'm trying to keep it as close to the middle of the nut as possible. And then once I kind of got it, you can also use, instead of your hand, you can just take a block of wood or a rolling pin or a mallet, not a metal mallet, but like a rubber plastic thing, and just use that to tap it. So I'm just lining it up in the center again, and then just pressing down. If you see this one I didn't quite get in the center well enough, so that makes pulling this piece out a bit harder. So what I'll do is I'll just line it up in the middle like this, and then split it like that into quarters. And then when I go to pop it out, it's just a bit faster to clean it. I just remove that, put that in my keep pile. So it takes a bit of time to process these, but just knowing that you've got this amazing wild sprouted gluten-free flour you can make from these is so cool. All right, well, I'll just do a couple more, but I think you got the idea. So sometimes I'll just kind of run the blade like that. If it tries to go off center, I can bend it back, but you don't always get it perfect. See, that one opened up on the side, so again, I'm gonna put it in the middle. Just be very careful, because this does like to roll around because it's a round thing. So put on a podcast, and this is how I cut my finger the other time. If I'm holding it down and I want to pry these apart, just make sure that you don't accidentally slide your finger underneath the blade as you're pulling and twisting. So just use your common sense, and you'll be all right. But once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy. And then, like I said, you can use a spoon, but a little butter knife is fine. And then as you go, you can get better and refine your technique and maybe come up with a way that I haven't thought of to make it go faster. This is just the fastest, consistent way that I've found to open these, because the husk is quite, it's woody, but it's flexible. So you can't really snap it open like a peanut or anything like that. It's very fibrous. Oops. And in my kitchen, if I drop it on the floor, I'm still going to use it. So I'm not worried about germs or any of that stuff. The Bundy nut itself is said to be significantly antibacterial. But what I've found, in a way, it doesn't mess with your gut bacteria. So it's safe to eat. Seems to be very nutritious, hearty, almost like a potato. I'm not familiar with chestnuts, but I'm told that the texture is kind of like a chestnut. And these are good enough, you can actually eat them raw a little bit. It tastes kind of like a raw potato. But I like to dry them in the dehydrator. As you can see here, I've got a batch. This one actually went less than 12 hours. And it looks really dry. See, although you can see something like this, if you pull it out, see how it's like a foam peanut? You want it not like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it back on. It has 3 more hours to go. So that's what I've found, 70 degrees for 3 hours. So I'm gonna hit start again. Voila. And then again, I just used the NutriBullet to make flour. I just finished eating a big stack of Bunya pancakes with banana. It is the best. All right, so this is after the full 12 hours. Every single one of these is hard and crispy, and they powder up quite easily in the blender, as you'll see here in a second. The way I do it is I don't fill the blender fully, maybe 3/4. Put it in, and once it looks like it's pretty well mixed through, then I just go ahead and bag it and put it in the fridge. So just scoop it directly into a Ziploc bag and save it. It'll last up to a year, maybe a little longer in the fridge.